Welcome to the Exceptional Educators podcast by Frenalytics EDU, where innovation meets inclusion in education. I'm your co-host, Matt Giovanello, the CEO and co-founder of Frenalytics. At Frenalytics, we put special education and English language learners front and center. Our award-winning Frenalytics EDU platform helps streamline progress monitoring, improve communication and compliance, and offers truly personalized learning to your students of all abilities. Each episode of our podcast features candid conversations with district and school leaders, classroom changemakers, edtech founders, and industry executives, all dedicated to transforming learning for each student, especially our learners with unique abilities. With a focus on extraordinary educators and the exceptional students they serve, we explore the latest in special education, accessible technology, and inclusive leadership. In this episode, Exceptional Educators is exceptionally thrilled to welcome the Student Executive Board members at Mountain View High School, part of the Mountain View Los Altos Union School District in California. Just this year, MVLA School District was named the best school district in the San Francisco Bay Area and number 2 best school district in all of California. Led by innovative and vocal principal turned mentor, Dr. Kip Glacier, these students are redefining what it means to be scholars, researchers, and innovators in the age of AI-driven edtech. Welcome, everyone. It is so nice to see you again. It's been a minute since Orlando at FETC, but it's so nice to have you on our podcast. This is a little bit of a unique format for us. We have 5 of you dialing in from various locations, both at school and at home. So let's do a little bit of a round robin. I would love for you to say a quick hello or your grade, what you're planning on studying or what you're most interested in, and pick a classmate here to do popcorn and have them introduce themselves afterwards, and then we'll kick it off with some of our discussion points. Nikita, how about you begin?
Hi, everyone. My name is Nikita. I'm a senior at Mountain View High School, and within the tech internship, I'm in charge of on-campus and general tech support. And later on, I plan to study material science and engineering.
Hi, I'm Yash. I'm a junior at Mountain View, and I'm very interested in computer science and artificial intelligence, and just seeing how that entire industry develops.
Hi, my name is Claire. I'm a senior. In the tech internship, I'm in charge of community outreach, and I'm really interested in bioinformatics and medicine and how they're affected by AI.
Hi, my name is Myra, and I'm a sophomore here at Mountain View High School, and an area that I'm interested in is something around biology.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sophia. I'm a senior at Mountain View High School, and I co-lead on-campus general tech support with Nikita. And something that I'm interested in is studying economics.
Well, thank you all for joining us today. I'm going to kick it right off with my first set of questions for you all. Feel free to chime in and opine and answer as you see fit. But one of the big pieces, Yash and others, that you shared with me at our dinner way back, just before we started recording, and even now, is the elephant in the room, AI and edtech tools for you as students. And I think that one of the reasons why I was extra excited for this episode is that we get to hear perspectives from those who are actually benefiting from and receiving services in schools, you students yourselves. AI has changed a lot over the past couple of years, perhaps even before you entered Mountain View High School. And so I'd love to get each of your takes on how learning has been transformed with these AI tools and what you make of them, whether you like them, you don't like them, whether there are considerations that you're concerned about, and what AI within edtech might even look like in the next couple of years.
So from my perspective, the biggest single development that we have had with artificial intelligence over these past 4 years has definitely been regarding personalization. You mentioned that at Frenalytics, you handle a lot of personalization, and I think AI has really accelerated that course. I know for me, I am able to have a personalized tutor, which is able to help me with anything I am concerned about. I'm able to have it make me custom problems, walk me through custom examples, and really all around handle that entire personalization that wasn't there just 3 to 4 years ago.
And I would add on by saying that we were definitely able to do that on our own time, like outside of the classroom when it comes to doing homework and maybe studying for a test. But primarily, I've seen that in my classes, we don't really touch AI and use it. And it's kind of not a device-free zone, but typically we're not allowed to use AI when we're learning. And so while we're able to absorb the information at home on our own and use AI to enhance that, when it comes to being in the classroom, it's typically not allowed at our school.
That's really interesting. Let's get into that a little bit more. I've heard very different opinions and perspectives on the level in which AI is permitted as a part of assignments and a part of learning, and whether it's allowed even at all. And it sounds like for a lot of your teachers, maybe they're taking the stance of, we don't want you to be overly reliant on it. We don't want you to outsource your thinking, so to speak. And so we want this to be a little bit more of an AI-free zone, and you'll be able to make use of that in your outside time and, when you graduate, but like not here, not now. I'm curious if that's the same case for all of your classes, maybe if certain subjects or certain teachers are more taking that stance. And On a related note, we heard in the FETC conference that we all went to together, the keynote speaker say, if AI is creating a lesson and creating an assignment, and a student is using AI to do the assignment, and then the teacher is using AI to grade the assignment, what's the point of the assignment? So I'm curious what you make of that. And perhaps that's part of the reason, Claire, in which your teachers are saying, okay, no AI. But I'm curious how prevalent that is. If it's in some classes, all of them, and maybe a little bit of the why.
For me, just talking about prevalence in teachers, I think most of my AP classes, most of the teachers don't allow the usage of AI. And I think like the main purpose of that is that because on our real AP tests, we're not going to have AI. And so if they do allow AI, students are going to abuse that power and not learn the concepts. But at the same time, I think that definitely has downsides. Like you're not able to learn as much, I think, if you don't use AI. But for example, my math teacher, he allows us to use AI just to generate problems. And he openly allows us and talks about using AI and teaches us how we can use AI and how we can prompt it to actually generate realistic problems or realistic practice tests. And I think it definitely helps us better study for the test and better understand the concepts.
Yeah. And then I think adding on to that, it definitely varies per teacher. And at least personally, I've seen a little bit more of like a switch back to what I would say like traditional classes. For example, in my macroeconomics class, all the assignments are now on paper. And in my physics class, there's now a greater weight on tests than homework because our teacher's aware that all the students are using AI to complete their homework. I don't necessarily think that now the teachers aren't trying to escape it anymore because they know it's inevitable, but a lot of them are just trying to AI proof their work.
A lot of the AI proofing I've seen is actually pretty innovative. So for instance, usually we have to write a senior thesis, and that would be a paper that you would write outside of class. You would turn it in, maybe 15 pages long of writing. But since AI can very easily generate professional research for a student, my senior thesis in my AP Lit class actually shifted to a 15-minute presentation in front of a community member. So for specific assignments, my teacher labeled some things as brain only, such as having to annotate all of our PDFs and our research papers. But there was some places she labeled as AI allowed, in which we could use AI to generate keywords so we know what search terms to use. And so I thought this whole process of focusing on interpersonal communication skills and balancing AI usage and doing the work yourself was actually pretty innovative. And I think that these skills will be very important in the future.
I like the brain only label that you mentioned for that example. Tell me a little bit more about kind of that rubric or those guidelines that in that example your teacher has there. Are you finding that each of your teachers have their own AI policies? Do you have one at the school level? Is it coming from the district? What does that look like? And what do you make of it? Do you like it? Do you think it could be improved upon? What role might you have in influencing that?
So over the past year, a group called the MVLA EdTech Committee has been meeting once a month to try to develop an AI policy. But to be completely transparent, we haven't quite completed it yet because this is definitely like a very controversial topic. And I think from person to person, like you have very strong opinions about how much you want AI to be in the school system. Each teacher can right now decide like how much AI can truly be used. But when they create policies that limit AI outside of school, like for homework, they typically sometimes honestly don't work because they're not able to actually regulate that, like how someone uses their personal laptop outside of school hours. And so it works pretty well inside of school. But then when it comes to like teachers trying to limit the use of tech or AI outside of the classroom, I found that a lot of times that can lead to like academic integrity violations for students just because there's no way to really mentor that.
I think that with our school, we're very fortunate to have a principal that is trying to like work with these like new developments and trying to involve the kids. And we are really open to these new developments as well. But like, I know that Yash and we presented an AI policy to our local middle school, and there were about like 5 or 6 board members from the middle school. And I remember that maybe like 2 or 3 of them were like, this is great. This is much needed. And then there was this one specific person who was like, we don't need any of this. We just need one sentence that says don't use AI or something. So we are so lucky to have a school that's super open to new transformations. But I think it is more difficult because outside of our principal and maybe some of our admin, there are a lot of people that don't think it's necessary. So it is difficult to definitely reach a consensus.
Striking that balance is what it sounds like is maybe easier said than done, Nikita. And so to so many of your points as well. I want to return to something, Sophia, you mentioned just a few minutes ago, an AI proof assignment or a term paper or a final for a class, especially in AP world, right? Because the AP exam is not going to allow any of that. What are some other maybe clever examples that you've encountered through your classes over the past couple of years of assignments that either require you to push your thinking beyond what AI would allow, and or is a clever way that your teacher came up with of requiring you to demonstrate that critical thinking in person versus a more traditional assignment?
In my AP physics class, we have these online problem sets that we're to finish. And so he knows that you can easily screenshot the problems and put them into Gemini or Claude. And so he openly permits you using that once you've done 3 or more attempts so that you're able to try the problem on your own. But then he's also allowing people to use AI because he knows that it can be used outside of the classroom very easily.
I would say teachers shift away from homework now. So for instance, in my math class, all of our homework was completely optional. And instead, all of our grade is now weighted on in-class assessments. The same is for my English class. All of our homework, it doesn't even count in the grade book anymore. And instead, we're only focused on maybe an hour long or 50-minute long timed writes in class. So in a sense, I'm not quite sure if we're losing some critical thinking skills by shifting work away from long-term assignments that can last over multiple months or multiple weeks, and instead focusing on this short-term quick writing and assessment skills.
I remember last year we used to have essays that would last a couple of weeks or a couple of days where we'd be able to work on them home. But now, because how many people are using AI, we've only had in-class essays. And so obviously it's important to write in 45 minutes or an hour, but I think we're definitely losing those skills where we're thinking about what we're writing and over a duration of time.
Those are really interesting perspectives to consider. I could very much imagine the shifts. And I think that seeing the in-person execution of your critical thinking skills is, not only is it similar to college, but I think it's also an excellent way for your teachers to be observing your growth as well in a way that these more traditional AI-able assignments may not be able to accurately capture anymore. And so it's interesting that homework you're just doing away with it. Like for those students who are on top of it, I'm sure a lot of you or all of you are still doing all of those homework assignments, even if they don't have a grade attached to them because it helps you grow, but it's not the sole way or even primary way anymore of being able to demonstrate that growth. Very, very interesting. A related topic and question that I want to explore with each of you is a phrase that I think also Sophia mentioned before, AI resilient careers, AI resilient majors. So not AI proof necessarily, but AI resilient. I'd love to get Sophia to start with your definition of what you mean by AI resilient. And then let's go into a couple of the things that you each want to study when you graduate high school. Some of you mentioned healthcare, others economics. You want to go into bioinformatics. These are all getting impacted by AI, but they're not getting replaced by it by any means. So I'm curious what you think a couple of years from now may even look like compared to what's getting you interested in these occupations and these fields right now. So Sophia, let's start with your definition, and then we'll go around and we'll talk about some of your majors and interests.
I think what is going to be AI resilient now is obviously those occupations that focus on interpersonal skills. And I think that that's pretty obvious when you say it out loud, but when you're actually thinking about what major to apply to for college, what is going to be AI resilient in the future, the future is not really clear. Because, for instance, I decided to apply for business and economics because people said it's a lot about networking, interpersonal skills, communication, these things that AI can't really replace. But still, those entry-level jobs are being taken because entry-level jobs, you're doing the menial tasks that an AI agent can completely do for you now. So I think the definition of AI resilient on paper is really simple. But what occupations are truly AI resilient? That is a question that doesn't have an answer yet.
What do each of you think about your areas that you intend to study when you finish high school? Do you think that they are also AI resilient using Sophia's language or Sophia's definition? Are you worried? Are you excited? What do you make of these other areas that you're interested in? And do you think that they're going to prevail?
I think that it really depends on the time frame you're looking at and the way that technology develops. Software engineering is a job that I think a lot of people have immediately said it is the first to go. But I would disagree with that because of two main points. One is just when we think about all this new technology, who is operating it? Who is maintaining it? When you have a system which is primarily digital, most of what we do can be interacted with code. And I think these engineers are still very valuable. And if you actually look at the data, I know job listings, people are listing jobs for software engineering. That has been going up for about the past year, while the other jobs have actually been going down. So when I see things like that, I believe that at least in the short term, maybe the next few years, we are still not in a society where software engineers are getting replaced. I am concerned about the direction of the overall society when you consider the fact that if AI is able to do most of the tasks that we engage in, that we are actually learning, and it is able to replace that, I'm just curious about where humans will fit into the bigger picture for jobs as well as a lot of other aspects of life.
I would say for medicine, which is what I'm quite interested in, I don't think that interpersonal skill of going to a doctor will change. I think it'll take a while because personally, if I'm feeling sick, I'll look on my phone, and I feel like this is a very common thing where people will have a cough and then they think that they have a very serious illness. The internet trips you out, but in the end of the day, we're embedded into a society where you want to check it with a doctor, a trusted adult, in my opinion. So I don't think that experience, that need to go verify it with a human, will go away in a short period of time. I don't think we could just grasp going to or going to robots to do our surgeries or talk to us or help counsel us on how to get through or mentally what we're going through in terms of the diseases we're having. And so I think that's pretty AI resistant, but maybe in terms of finding the discoveries or finding efficiencies will be definitely AI will be used for that in the future.
For my interest, with engineering, I'm not really sure if I would define it as AI resiliency, because I would say that because engineering is so heavy tech, it's a mix of really everything, computer science and creativity. A lot of it will be supplemented by AI, but I don't necessarily think that it will avoid it completely. Especially for things like material science, which is what I'm interested in. A lot of it requires creative thinking and looking at things in a new way. And that's something that our AIs haven't really been able to figure out yet because, the information that they get is from information that we already have. And the creation standpoint, AI it's a little bit more of an AI resilient topic. Yeah.
So good points, Nikita. We explored this concept of AI proof in terms of your assignments. We talked about AI resiliency in terms of the careers and fields that you want to study once you graduate high school and go through college. I'm interested in your reflections on how your teachers, your administrators, and the other resources you have to you at Mountain View maybe are preparing you for this AI-driven world. I'm curious about maybe what AI tools you do have access to in school, maybe what support services you're getting through guidance or your other types of things available at school. How are you getting ready for what life might look like after high school? What are you making use of right now?
Honestly, I would say that we don't necessarily get a lot of AI support or suggestions at school. Our school accounts, they have limits on what we can use. We can't use Gemini. ChatGPT is open for our school accounts, but I mean, specifically Gemini, because we're a Google account, we still can't use that. And we don't really have classes or information or sessions that teach us how to use the AIs and different types of things that would be useful for presentations. That's definitely something that we are trying to work on as a program. A lot of what's happening at school is because the kids are more comfortable with AI than most of the staff. So it is really hard to receive instruction on that and get support and tips for the future when everyone's still trying to figure it out. And I would say that's the biggest thing. It isn't really something that we're getting direct support for. We're kind of just supporting each other within our friends and within our classroom communities.
It's interesting. It's almost like the students are becoming the teachers.
The one thing that I would like to add is this year, there has not been a lot of AI support, definitely. However, going into next year, there's definitely a push from both the superintendent's office and our principal, Dr. Glazer, about integrating more artificial intelligence, not just having this policy that we shouldn't use it or we should use it only occasionally, but rather showing students how to use AI. And the way we're doing that is over summer, a new project that we are going to engage in is actually developing an AI literacy course. A lot of online platforms have a couple of courses that are out there, but by combining those courses with a student perspective, we are hopefully going to create a module which students can listen to, interact with, and learn from in their health class, for example. So all students, ideally from 9th grade and onwards, will be equipped to handle artificial intelligence and all of these different tasks that we are seeing now.
That is cool. Okay, that's exciting. Yash and others, how is that AI literacy playbook coming together? Are students a part of that? Is it your staff? Did the school bring in somebody from the outside to help put that together? What does that look like and how is that coming together?
We are in very early stages of this entire process. Dr. Glazer got this idea of a project from the superintendent's office about having actual action take place. So it is a very new project. Currently, some students are being involved in, and we are trying to, with other connections, trying to get people from maybe companies, ed tech leaders, or researchers. I'm currently in talks with someone from Stanford for a very similar project, and I'm trying to bridge the gap between the two groups. So a lot of these tasks are very early stage. However, the goal is by the end of summer, we have something tangible that students can go through and learn from. And we don't want it to be just a course where you watch a video, you answer a question. That seems completely counterproductive and very contradictory, where we are having a course to teach people about AI. But if we don't use AI in that, I'm not sure what exactly we're teaching. So we're going to try to make it as engaging as possible by incorporating people from a variety of different lenses and just having all of those different backgrounds come together to make something that I think all students will be able to enjoy and learn from.
Well put. That's really cool. Well, I am excited to follow that. That's going to be a lot of fun. I imagine, Yash, another thing I know we wanted to explore as a group that's very much related to what you just mentioned are ethical implications and implications overall of incorporating AI, not only into instruction, but also to assessments and grading and broader considerations of AI use and overuse and misuse across the boards. Let's talk about that a little bit. What are some of the ethical implications that you're all thinking of as students around the use of AI, whether it is environmental, whether it is just moral, whether it is the proper use of it as a teacher? I'm curious what you all think about when you think of implications, positive or negative, of using AI in your world.
I would just say access for me would be the most the biggest concern for ethics. And it's not like some people have access to these technologies and it's a lot easier for them to work with it. A lot of it, from what I've noticed at school at least, is people will be using AIs to get work done and do other things, and then other people won't be using AI to get this work done. And at the end of the day, they're getting the same grade, they're getting the same work done, but one person is really doing it and one person isn't doing it. But that's no one else can know. So they're both getting the same recognition. They both might end up in the same places. So I guess the ethics for me would be, since everyone's personal use is so different, is it really fair to have the same outcome?
True. I mean, Yash's personal tutor is not necessarily a tutor that is across the entire high school, right? To Yash's gain, but if people don't know how to put such a tutor together or that they even know that's available as an option, could that be a potential negative? Not citing you, Yash. Excellent idea, but everybody needs it.
I do have a lot of these concerns about how people are using it, the inequity of it, where I have a lot of different agents that I've made, which do a lot of my tasks that other people might have to do manually. But for me, one of my biggest concerns is actually if it is a pragmatic solution. With this system of artificial intelligence being able to replace menial tasks, I'm concerned about the future in the sense of we have all of elementary, middle, and high school preparing us for sort of college where we specialize in a specific field. The way it is taught is a lot of memorization, a lot of focusing on these base level concepts. But if AI is able to replace all of that and handle all of that, where do humans actually fit in? And how can we enhance artificial intelligence or have it enhance our productivity? That is something I am unsure about because we're already seeing it with mass layoffs taking place. I'm already very concerned for how our society functions as a very work-driven lifestyle, if that is sustainable, and if not, how will we transition?
I do know some teachers do use AI for grading and they use it to grade other people's work. But then also at the same time, AI has different rubrics and also grades people differently. So just ethically speaking, two people can write two really good essays just in two different styles, and yet they can receive two different grades. We've become more reliant on AI, and especially teachers, they obviously have a lot of work to do and they're overwhelmed. And so when they use AI to grade something and they two students receive two different grades with doing the same amount of work and amount of effort, I think that's something that we could keep in mind.
I just want to emphasize what Nikita said about your grade being the same, but then the amount of AI being used varying a lot, because I took an online multivariable class from January to March, and our final exams would be 6 hours. And it would just be a PDF that you would download that you would do on your own. And so from 7 a.m. to 1 p.m., I was sitting on my couch, using my notes, doing the entire test by myself. But I know that you could easily just put that PDF in to Gemini and or put the PDF in and then the notes in and be okay, fill this out. And then they'd get even a higher grade, same grade or higher grade just because of that efficiency. And so I think I wish that like maybe there was more understanding about that in terms of like the regulations such that people weren't penalized for like following academic integrity.
Right. And I think something that's really, really, really important for teachers to be thinking about as well is conceptually kind of simple to understand, but technically really hard to wrap their heads around are plagiarism detectors powered by AI, and being able to accurately across the board pinpoint when a student may or may not be using AI to write or be assisted to write some of their essay or some of their written assignments, right? There's been a lot of research that I'm sure many of you know or have started to hear about of whether it's different socioeconomic backgrounds or whether it's the level of English proficiency around a student's writing, and how AI plagiarism detectors, despite their best efforts, are inaccurately flagging some of that written work. And there can be really serious implications if a student is being marked as failing an assignment for quote unquote using an AI writer when they didn't use one at all. And I think that if teachers are outsourcing grading to AI, that opens the door to that being a real possibility. Affects students just like you and affects students everywhere else. So I'm glad you're bringing all of those points up. Yash, I want to return to something you brought up before. You have AI agents. I was giggling as you mentioned that. I need to know, what are some of your AI agents doing and how do you set them up?
Yeah, so for what they're actually doing, I have one legislative AI agent, which I use to find legislative bills that I would agree with or disagree with regarding artificial intelligence or education. And it will just email all the educators, basically. So every day at 6 a.m., it'll find a few bills, it'll create my position on it, and it'll ask for a meeting, maybe to like 50 different legislators. And by doing that, I've gotten about a dozen meetings with state level senators. And this just allows me to use my AI knowledge to really try to influence policy at a state level. And it also increases my literacy on a lot of the topics that are happening within legislation. I know a lot of different states are starting to make AI policy. Some states are trying to push back against some of the national guidance that is out there. And all of this experience, I think, has been helpful for me. And setting it up is actually easier than you would think because I don't set it up. I ask my AI to set it up. So I'm using an AI to set up AI agents. And the entire process for me is just writing sentences, telling an AI what I want to do. But without that background of software engineering, understanding how different things should be organized, I think people have difficulty doing it.
That is fascinating. Truly, truly fascinating. Pretend I'm your state senator for a hot second. What is your most recent stance on recent AI policy happening in your case for California? I'm curious. I'm not even 100% sure of what your latest developments are, but I know OpenAI is right in your backyard, right? All of the innovation happening with AI is literally in Silicon Valley. So I know California is moving fast. What are your latest stances? What are you trying to either raise the alarm on or get your voice heard from or warn senators about as a precinct?
So I am trying to push for minimal AI policy just to get started. And what I mean by that is I've noticed a lot of these bills, which are we'll ban AI for under 13 or AI needs to be severely regulated. I haven't seen a single example of one of those bills actually getting passed. Typically, it'll fail the first round of Congress. And if it passes, it'll get rejected in the second round. So what I advocate for is very small legislation, taking steps against maybe using artificial intelligence and deep fakes for under 18 or different very negative use cases. For example, these companionship chatbots, which seek to develop a relationship with someone under 18. I try to advocate for policy around that because once we start to have this AI policy, even if it's super small, we can expand on that in the future, in the coming years. One state that I was very involved in, I forgot the exact state, but basically there were 3 AI bills that I was advocating for. 2 of them got rejected, and the one that got passed was specifically targeting, I think it was pornographic content for minors, and it was just using AI to engage in these harmful acts and preventing that. So something that I think everyone can actually agree on. But once we start to have AI legislation in place, we can expand on that. And I think that is the biggest message I have to all people.
That's very, very, very interesting. Thank you for that mic drop and for letting me put you on the spot for that, Yash. I think that your voice, the fact that it's making all the way up to the state Senate is awesome. And I think that the way that you're using AI to be educated on AI is very, very cool. I'm going to wrap up our conversation here. This was an enlightening one. Thank you all for joining me in this discussion this afternoon. We love to finish each of our podcast episodes by asking a question to our guests around what being an exceptional educator or being an exceptional leader means to you. And ironically, neither of you are exceptional educators, but you are exceptional leaders, even as students. So I'm going to pose that same question to each of you. And I would like for you to think about either the work that you do from a leadership and from an advocacy standpoint, and or thinking about an exceptional educator you've had in times past, what that represents to you and why you find them exceptional. Let's go around. Claire, I'll have you start this time. What does being an exceptional leader or being an exceptional educator mean to you?
I would just say that being an exceptional educator means like being prepared for what's coming and just accepting it. Because I think when we like prolong it or when we don't accept it, then that's when like we get into like ethical issues or like inequities. And so I think being upfront in what's coming and like being prepared and like trying to stay on top of what's going on and how to help your community.
And then to add on to that, being a good leader, it just requires a lot, being really open-minded, because obviously with more AI coming, there's going to be a lot of changes, and trying to adapt to those and be more open-minded would help you like listen to other people and form new perspectives.
I would say that for me, to be a good educator, to be a patient educator, I would say with yourself and with the people that you are educating, because at the end of the day, so much is going on that so many people are confused in so many different things. To be the best leader that you can be or the best educator that you can be, you need to understand that everyone is learning at their own pace. You are learning at your own pace, and that really just working together and figuring everything out together is the only way that you're going to get through it.
Love that. I think that, the realistic reflection on that is we're all learning kind of as we go. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. This world is changing so fast, and to be able to keep up in pace and go lockstep with your students, there's nothing wrong with that. You get to learn alongside them.
I really like what you just said. I think a good educator is someone who's also willing to learn as well, especially with the changing digital landscape. Being a resilient leader and being willing to grow and learn about these new tools is part of what makes a good educator. But I think first and foremost, a good educator supports their students always and is willing to see their student grow and willing to support that journey. And I've been really lucky to have a lot of great educators that have done exactly that for me, and I'm so grateful for that.
I would say the single most important skill is being adaptive and having the ability to adapt to any situation. With how fast AI is developing, I think it's super difficult for anyone to be completely prepared, but just understanding how the technology is evolving and being prepared to put in the extra effort to ensure that your students are prepared for the future, whether that be a future class or how to handle moving out of high school and into college or anything that they have to do in the future. I think just having that understanding that technology is changing and evolving, and we need to change as such.
So eloquently put. You're exactly right. Well, thank you all of you, Claire, Yash, Myra, Sophia, and Nikita, the one bringing us all together today. Thank you all for joining us. You are exceptional students, role models, advocates, innovators, everything in between. You make Dr. Glazier so proud, and you made me so proud by joining and sharing your voice in this hall today. And I know that you're making your teachers proud as well. So thank you for sharing your perspectives. It is so cool, as always, to hear directly from student voices. And I'm even more grateful that we got to do it in a podcast forum today. So thank you. I hope you have an awesome rest of your school day, and I hope you have a great rest of your school year. And for those who are graduating in just a couple of weeks, Nikita, Sophia, and Claire, congratulations. And I wish you all the best in college and beyond. Thank you for joining us today, everybody. To everybody joining us on the Exceptional Educators podcast, thank you for joining today's episode. I will see you on the next one.